Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
There you go.
Hi, everybody. We were just discussing Renee's exceptional gift wrapping. Oh my
It
goodness.
says fragile.
It does say fragile. So it's Italian. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying? He has
It's
some.
from the land of Frag.
Ah, I see.
See,
Okay.
Fragile?
Fragile?
Yeah.
Oh, it's an island. I didn't know that. Fragile. He's nuts. I want to say good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a birthday tomorrow, okay? In case you haven't figured that out. I have, the day started out a little rough. I was a little grumpy this morning. I had very poor sleep. So I was a little grumpy when I heard the doorbell go off at 9 a.m. And I asked my husband, I thought, who was that at this hour? And he said it was the florist. There was a huge amount of flowers delivered to my house today from the members, some of the members of my paid membership group.
It was quite the list.
Quite the list. So I do have to say thank you to a few people. So bear with me because the list is long. Of course, to Linda Safranco, she's my right hand. She is just amazing. She does so much to help me with my membership group. She keeps them active. She makes sure they're fully engaged. She's just wonderful. Not to mention, she's a really dear friend. And to Carrie Siebel, thank you, Carrie. Linnell Kostek, mwah. And Betty Newhouse, hello, sweetheart. And Tracy Craig, and our favorite Lucy. I love Lucy. Lucy Mott, Judy Thacker, Denise Van Newkirk in Alberta, and Brenda Owen, and Patrick Penifus in France, and Francis Langevin, thank you so much, sweetheart, and my girl Kim Ish, my partner in Skulls, and Deb Daniker, my sweet friend, and Bev, I'm going to mess this up, Cecilski, did I get that right? And Louise Long, I may have. And Cheryl D'Agostino and sweet Margie Eaton, Pat Lynchy, Linda LaRocco, Lori Skiffington, thank you, Lori, and Mary Galliato, my sweet Robin Storm, Ann Davis, Teresa Casper, Terry, and Brenda Sawyer, Linda Morgan, sweet Kathy Pruitt, what a doll she is, and Lynn Poignanco. I know I messed that up, Lynn. I'm so sorry. And my dear friend, Sheila Landry, Carol Mays, Debbie's Doodles. Why does it say Debbie's Doodles? I'm not sure which Debbie that is. But thank you so much. And Kathy McAllister, amazingly talented woman. And Rebecca Wallace and my buddy Eddie Hensley. Thank you so much, everybody. What? What was that?
That was Linda Safranco.
Oh my goodness. Anyway,
She just donated $268.
you guys are crazy. Absolutely. Thank you so much. The flowers are spectacular. I can't even begin to tell you how beautiful they are. And then I got a wonderful gift yesterday from Linda and her lovely mom, Mary Amos. I wanted to say thank you to both of you. The flowers are beautiful. And I had a very leaky moment this morning, so thank you so much. Wow.
There you go.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That was the leftover. Holy smokes, I can't imagine how much you collected. That's crazy. Thank you so much.
You're gonna make her
Insane.
cry.
Well, they did that already. I get.
Don't put what tears on the
No, I'm going to leak all over the surface. Don't do that. So thank you so much, everybody. You started my day off on a great note. I was so looking forward to today,
Look at all the happy
and then I did not sleep well. So I was really grumpy and cranky this morning, and that all changed when I saw the beautiful flowers. So thank you so much. Jan Smith, and oh, look at all the birthday wishes. Thank you, Ann Fogg and Veronica Brait and Janet Dammit. Thank you so much, everybody. You're gonna make me. I'm gonna be a leaky mess all day. I was a leaky mess this morning, and a blubbering. So yes,
There's no point in wrapping it.
I probably not. Renee is working on my birthday, so he won't be here. Don't cry, you'll make me cry. Oh, jeez. That's, I'm a sympathetic crier. If somebody else cries, I cry. It's just the way it works.
Not a sympathetic yawner.
You're, yeah. Sympathetic yawner. Oh, too weird.
I'm also sick, so.
Yes. Dear Renee woke up with a cold. Poor Muffy.
Throat yesterday. Now today I got the runny nose and the sore throat.
On the upside, though, it won't last long. It didn't with me. It lasted like 2 days, and that was it. Done. So, don't worry, be happy. Thank you, Debbie. I do have one of the bunches in the studio. Look at this. The one from you and your mom is in my studio. Uh-oh.
Birthday present from me.
Yep. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It's heavy. Do I want to... Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Toy.
It's a toy, but oh, my God. Holy hell, this is heavy. Oh, my goodness.
Ta-da.
Digital drawing tablet. Oh, my God. Thank you. Wow.
I've been hiding that.
I would say. I didn't see it when I cleaned your room the other day. Must have been under that pile of laundry.
Actually, no, it was in plain sight.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I was oblivious.
Toys.
Toys. Oh, my God.
There's more.
There's more? Why is there more? Oh, cables. That's helpful. Oh, my God.
There you go.
That's amazing.
That's my wrapping paper.
You goon. Oh. Okay, you made me leak.
I made you leak? You're going to have fun with that.
Thank you, baby.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
Toys.
Maze was guarding it. Oh. Thank you, Judy. That's a wonderful son. Yeah, I have to agree. He is. You're a doll. Oh, my goodness. Guess what I'm doing tomorrow? I'm going to be playing with that.
All day.
All day. Because my birthday. I get to do whatever I want. That's how that works in this house. Oh, my goodness. Everybody, thank you so much for the birthday wishes. We have 3 fabulous giveaways today. I figured if I'm getting presents, then I should, share the love. So you're getting presents too. Yeah, I know, right? We have a little crafty bag in there. Yep. There's a little crafty bag with a couple of Tombow goodies in it and, just a couple of things. A little something from me. And then from Dynasty Brush, you have a fabulous brush roll and it's got it's nearly full of Dynasty black gold brushes. It's a beautiful brush set.
Oh, you're doing black gold?
It's black gold today and beautiful brush set. And it comes in a brush case, not a brush roll, but a case. Nice zipper, heavy duty. It's gorgeous. Anyway, so we have 3 of those to give away for today. So you guys can share in the fun of having my birthday. So that is what we're giving away. I'm excited. I like people getting presents. Presents are fun. Probably won't be me with so many people on the wheel these days, Judy Thacker. Oh, sweetheart. Everybody got your fingers crossed. Is my birthday today or tomorrow? My birthday is tomorrow. My actual birthday is tomorrow. Kathy Sloan, thank you so much, honey. And Sue Braun, hello. And Jeannie Marshall, good morning. Oh my goodness, everybody's here. We're going to have some fun today. I've got a really nifty technique for painting grapes. And it's super simple. And it's going to give you nice, round, lush grapes. And you're going to love this. It's just such an easy way to paint grapes. So we're going to have some fun with that. And I'm going to show you how to use a stencil to help with transferring your line drawings. And what else? Oh, and then we're going to do that big, bold lettering. So we're going to have a lot of fun with today's project. The one we're doing is called the Winery. We're going to be using Decor Americana acrylics. We're going to be using some Posca pens. We're using a metallic Posca pen. And we're using some neons, some beautiful bright neon colors. And we're just going to have fun today. And I'm going to show you how to do a really elegant looking background. So, what's that? Carol Colbert, the 26th is also her daughter's birthday. She'll be 63. I'm going to be 62. Tomorrow is my 62nd birthday.
I thought it was your 55th.
Oh no, and I don't do things in reverse. No. The way I see it is I've worked hard to get to this point, and I've survived thus far. Now it's goals. Yeah. Now it's a goal. So, yeah, I'm going to be 62. This is going to be fun, and this technique actually works really well for mixed media. It works well, even works with oil paints. So, and you can even do it with watercolor. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with this. Oh, and Diane's daughter will be 26 tomorrow. Well, wish her a happy birthday for me, Diane. She's an Aquarian. I'm still a puppy.
You're still a puppy.
Yep, there's lots of years in art ahead of you. I certainly hope so. And Sandy Greco, glad to be here. Glad to have you with us. Gail Jensen, hi from snowy Utah. Thank you very much, Gail. Deb Daniker, 100% correct. Mwah. Oh my goodness, I am one very lucky lady. Donna Pulse, every year is a blessing and should be celebrated. I agree. You know, I'm still a youngster. Yes, I am, Elsie. Although sometimes the body doesn't agree, but the mind does. You know, the mind still thinks I'm 12, so.
What was it? My sense of humor.
Cheryl Niece's birthday is tomorrow, too.
What?
Awesome. Happy birthday, Cheryl. And Vera Kaufman is celebrating her 50th anniversary today. Happy anniversary. It's like gray hair around everyone. I agree. When you get to the point where it's just too much work to color it. So I'm liking my gray hair. I have switched from Battleship to something a bit more silvery.
I am 38. My body thinks it died in the Civil War. My mind thinks it's 12.
What was it? I'm not 62. I'm 25 plus shipping and handling.
25 plus shipping and handling.
Yep. Well, these days that's what it's like,
Yeah.
you know.
Unless you got Prime.
Unless you get Prime, yes. All right, guys, if you are ready to get started on the winery, so am I.
Press your button.
What's this button? I love this little graphic Renee found. It's fun.
Zoom out a little bit.
A little bit.
I don't like touchpads. There we go.
So, awesome. So,
I gotta go get birthday cake and booze.
okay. Dog food. Don't forget the dog food.
Right?
Dog food.
Gonna come back with like 3 cakes and
1 cake. Well, You guys will eat most of it anyway. So you get whatever you like.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't care. I'm not a big cake eater.
I know.
Just find a cake.
No Marie Antoinette for you.
No Marie Antoinette for me. I'm forever young.
It's not a fast one, is it? It's not.
No.
No. Okay.
So this is the surface we're working on. It's an 8x10 panel. I'm using one of these MDF panels, but this one is frameable. But you can do this on canvas. You can do this on an artist's panel. So you could even do this on watercolor paper, quite honestly. I've got one coat of Country Red on here. I like Country Red for a couple of reasons. One, it's a little more opaque than most. And I like the tone of it. It's a little more earthy, but it's still quite a bold red. So, is that a bruise on my hand right there? Yes, it is. I didn't move my hand quick enough the other day and slammed it in the drawer. And I got it just, right in the right spot. So, yes. I bruise easily anyway. I always have. So, it looks far worse than it is. Good morning, Angie. So, as I said, one coat Country Red on this surface. Now, we're going to make a glaze for this. And the color we're going to be using is soft black. I like this color for reds for a particular reason. It has an undertone of red anyway. It's a very warm black and almost a purplish or deep red undertone. Hey, bestie. How are you, sweetheart? Thank you. Have I used my canner yet? No, not yet. I'm anxious. I'm looking forward to it. So, soft black. I'm going to mix this with a glaze. Now, you can use the Jo Sonja Fast Dry Glaze if you like. It works very well for this. Or you can use this. This is the Jo Sonja Magic Mix. And this is virtually like the faux glaze that DecoArt makes. I haven't been able to find any faux glaze and I'm out. So this is what I've been using instead and it works beautifully. But I like the faux glaze because it's what I'm used to, but this worked beautifully. So if you don't have faux glaze and you do have this is what you can use. So this bottle is nearly empty. There was barely anything left in it. This here, we're going to use about 2 tablespoons of the Jo Sonja Magic Mix or faux glaze or Jo Sonja Fast Dry. And I'm going to add an equal amount of paint, of the soft black. And then we're going to brush mix it. It's going to make a very runny glaze. Very runny paint. Just like that. It's very soupy. And this is our high-tech tool. This is just brown paper, craft paper, the stuff that you have for the post office. No. That's all you need. And you're going to crumple it so that it creates a very fine texture. So you're really going to soften this paper up. So you end up with what looks like this. So that's what we're going to use. Now, you're going to apply this quickly and as evenly as you can over the surface. You can slap it on, be generous. Neatness doesn't count. Perfection is to be avoided at all costs. We want full coverage, so meaning you got to have it everywhere. Comme ça. But don't worry about it being neat and tidy, but you do want it relatively even. So you don't want it running off, but cover it up. Just like that. Just like that. It's a big soupy mess. That's okay. And then you're going to take your brown paper and drop it on. And then you're going to rub with the palm of your hand. No fingertips. You don't want fingertips on this because it will leave weird marks in your finish. So that when you pull it off, this is what you get. Now we've got one spot here where I've perhaps put too much pressure. So I can put a little more on, crumple your paper, and then just blot that area like so, like it never happened. So what you get is this very visually textured surface. The technique is called frottage. The surface is an 8x10 piece of MDF or artist panel or gesso board. It gives you this nice, almost an old-fashioned leather look. Now, when it dries, it takes on this really nice, soft look. It is so pretty. Now, this technique you can do with black green, with a foliage green underneath or a hunter green underneath. It gives you a nice, rich, old-fashioned leather look. It's beautiful on walls for a den, and it's beautiful on surfaces like this, jewelry boxes, all sorts of surfaces. But I love the look of this. It produces a nice, rich background, and when it's varnished, it's just gorgeous. It's very rich. And it deepens that red beautifully. But look at this, all of this wonderful visual texture in there. And it's so easy to do. And as I just showed you, if you take off too much, if you have a spot where you have put too much pressure and you've pulled off too much glaze, it's an easy fix. As long as it's still wet when you're doing it, it's an easy fix. I've always loved the look of this. I think it's such an elegant looking finish for a background. And it works particularly well with our grapes. Steam wrap works very well. Tissue paper works very well. The thinner the paper is, the sharper the pattern is. I've done this with something similar to this with saran wrap. I prefer using the brown paper. Of course, the thinner the brown paper, the sharper the pattern is that it develops. But the softer, the more often you crinkle it, the more subtle the pattern becomes. It is beautiful on deep burgundy. It just gets darker and richer. The darker your base color, the richer the finish gets. Hi, Janet. Welcome. And Dawn Pakowski. Did I get that right? Pakowski. Thank you very much. And Lynn Heek, hello. Hi, Deb. So nice of everybody to be here. There we go. So this is nice and dry. And one of the things I've been asked is, everybody says, what do you do with all of that wasted glaze? Well, it's not wasted, but we're going to take a nice big angled shader. Thank you, Jill. A plain flat background to me, doesn't do anything to support the design that goes on it. It works for some things, depending on what it is. Hi, Dawn. But in general, I just prefer to have something, a little elegant movement, something that supports the overall design. Does this make much of a textured surface? No, it does not. So I'm going to take some of that glaze. By the way, this floats really nicely. Float all the way around the outside edge with that soft black glaze. And it's going to give you a nice rich background. just like this. And don't be shy with it. No point in throwing out that paint when we're going to use that same color to shade around the edges anyway, so we'll use the glaze. This is a very old finish. Frottage has been used for a lot of different things over the years, but I've always found that the reds and the greens mimic Florentine leather beautifully. You get that richness, the texture, and the softer that paper is, the more subtle the finish is, and the more elegant it looks. So I've put a nice little float all the way around the outside edge using that same glaze mixture. So when it's completely dry, the transition from that darker outside edge in towards the center is so smooth and so subtle. It doesn't look hard-edged, doesn't look like a band of color. And you can make this as deep and as dark as you want. You can do as many layers of this as you want. If you want it darker, do another layer. Now in this particular case, I used reds all the way through to this. What did I call this? This is called a frottage. F-R-O-T-T-A-G-E, frottage. It's a French word for strike, to hit. The old method was to use a crumpled piece of paper and pat it. So frottage. It's a pretty finish. It can be done with lighter values too, and it takes on a different look again. I've done this using a lighter blue and then using a soft white over top. You can use a two-tone using, say, a darker pink and then a lighter pink over top of it. You can manipulate the colors quite easily to suit you. So the technique is very versatile. It can be used so many different ways, but it produces such an elegant looking finish. So this is your background for our winery theme. Now, once you've gotten it to this point, then you're ready to trace and transfer your design on. I've already got mine prepped, but I wanted to take you through a couple of things. I have most of this already traced. I do have to do the lettering at the top, like so. Just like that. So I've done the leaves and the butterfly and the lettering. That's done. We're going to do that border. And anytime I have a lot of straight vertical lines in something, I like to use a ruler to trace those. So down to the corner. Curves and whatnot you can freehand easily. So, but those straight lines, in order to keep them nice and straight, I highly suggest using a good straight edge ruler. I like a metal ruler with a cork back, simply because the metal doesn't get chipped over time like plastic does. And then you still end up with nice straight lines. Nothing more frustrating than trying to paint a straight line on a crooked one. So, nice straight lines. As I said, don't worry about the rounded corners. You can straighten those out later on. You can do your rounded corners. We're going to use a nifty gold Posca pen to do our border on the edges of this. We're going to use the gold pen to do a little bit of the lettering. And then we're going to use a brush to do the rest. So there's our border. Handy rig, a little 6-inch straight edge metal ruler makes a world of difference. So our next step is to trace all these grapes. Now, I found because the grapes are round, I like using one of these. Now, you can use a template like this, or you can use, the green ones, anything as long as it's got a series of different sized circles. So it can be one of these shape makers, it can be one of the Staedtler templates, it can be anything, as long as it's got a variety of circles. The reason I like to use one of these is this, consistency, accuracy. Debbie Easton, you have to ask, what's for dinner tonight? We are having roseberry pork tenderloin tonight. It's been marinating for a day, and I marinated in fresh lemon juice, fresh rosemary, a little bit of garlic. Makes it tasty. So all I do with this is I move it around till I found a circle that suits the size of the grape that I'm tracing. So right there. And this way I get nice crisp circles. So if I get a big circle, and then one here. Nope, that one's a little too small. Whoops. I'm going the wrong way here. There we are. Tracing these circles this way gives you accurate tracing. Hi, Janet. I did. The flowers are spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Can't thank you guys enough. I've been very spoiled. And then Renee gave me that incredible gift. I'm blown away by that. Da-da. This is why it's handy, because this way I've always got just the right size. And it does make a big difference in the end result. Having clean lines. You made the lemon blueberry cake. Isn't it delicious? It's just a fabulous recipe. I've used that one for years. I made lemon blueberry loaf this week. It didn't last very long. It never does. It's a popular one in this house. So I just continue to trace all these circles like so. Sometimes I need a bigger circle. Like, yep, there it is. And it does make a big difference in the end. But I'm going to show you another technique for painting grapes that's going to make your life a whole lot simpler as well. So that you're not driving yourself crazy trying to get in perfect colored grapes. It is super easy, works really, really well, and you get a great result. I've never had it fail, so. Took an oil class one time when we freehand the grapes, ended up with about 100 champagne grapes instead of about 20. I think we've all kind of been through that where we, every time you try to fix something, you end up with far more than you anticipated. I'm a fan of using circle. I like using a template because it's so much more reliable and consistent, and you don't end up fighting against things. There's nothing more frustrating, in my opinion, than constantly trying to get things to be the right shape. And if it's supposed to be round, it should look round. And it's frustrating when it isn't. So there we go. And I think just got a couple more to do. I got these little teeny tiny ones to do. Look at that. Shoop. The fun part is that once you have these all traced, then the worst is over. I'm just going to make sure I haven't missed anything here. I think I might have missed that. Here we go. So all my grapes are traced. I'm going to quickly check. Yup. And all my line drawings are in, I do believe, except for one. I missed this spot right here, of course. So I have, good gravy, Marie. Missed a spot there too. Let's see. Okay. I think, seriously. All right. By George, I think she's got it. Hi, Karen. You're making goodies today? Ooh, yay. Try finding round grapes at a grocery store. Actually, I know that sounds strange. I was at Costco one day and they had these deep, dark, bright, like really deep purple grapes in there, and every one of them was like perfectly round. It's kind of creepy, actually. So I've got everything traced. Got my Flutterby in, got all my grapes traced. And the first thing we're going to tackle is that lettering. I chose a really bright color to go over top of all that red. And someone asked me about my color choices, like how do I decide which colors are going to work with what, or what I'm going to use. I generally look for colors that are complementary to the main color. So again, I'm looking at the background, and whatever colors I choose are going to be complementary to that background. Yes, Jael, they are very, very sweet. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Kathy. So in this particular case, I chose a really bold red or yellow. I love that sort of vintagey yellow tone. I used marigold, which is this one right here. Marigold over top of this vintagey red. It's a nice earthy color. Would I use the red pen on vellum? Yeah, I use red all the time. Vellum is no different than working on paper, simply because I can never tell if I've gotten all of it. So I like the red, and that way I can look at my line drawing and go, yeah, I can see where I've been. And I was looking at the line drawing going, I couldn't tell if I had missed it or not, but yes, I had missed it. So we're going to start. I like to start from the back forward. And in this case, the lettering is behind our main visual element. So we are going to start with that lettering. I love this look. It's just so rich. So on the lettering, first thing we're going to do, I'm going to find my angled shader here. I need a 1/2 inch angled shader. And because we're giving away black gold today, I'm going to use a black gold. So remember that glaze that we made? I'm going to use that glaze to shade our lettering. So inside the lettering on the background, we're going to put a float in these areas here and in behind all of that. So remember the float that we did all the way around the outside using this mixture. We're going to do the same thing on the background to the right of each letter. Look at that. And in behind those leaves, don't forget, got to get in behind those leaves too. I like the subtlety of this. Because we're using the same color that we used for the glaze, it's a subtle transition. It's not an in-your-face harsh shadow. And because we're painting the lettering after we do the shading, if you go over the lettering, it's okay. You don't have to worry about messing up your color. Aw, I didn't mean to make you leaky. I just think you're extraordinary. Kathy McAllister. I love your work. I love you that you're so freaking creative. I love this color, this gorgeous soft black on top of that country red, on top of almost any red. It's beautiful. Tuscan red is another color I really love. So there's that float. And I'll tell you something about using this faux glaze. When you're floating, if you're going to float with it, it just makes that float so subtle, so soft, and very smooth coming off the brush. So if you struggle to get really nice smooth floats, try adding a little faux glaze to your paint. It keeps the body of the paint and it just slides off the brush. It's like you've lubricated the paint in some way. And it's beautiful. So look at that. See how that just jumps off that surface? I agree, Don Moore. We should be holding each other up. So I'm going to do the same thing around all these grapes. Just a nice, neat little bit of depth back there. I just think that that little shadow in there makes a world of difference. Doesn't have to be much. Doesn't have to be super heavy. But we are going to pay a little attention down here because I want a nice dark float under here. It's okay if you go over the border. It's fine. Don't worry. Just get those nice dark floats under there. This is the nice thing about doing all of this first, is that you can be a little sloppy. You don't have to worry about going over top of your grapes. That float isn't going to hurt it. You can go over lines and it's okay. But we want a nice deep dark float in there. Get that color in. I like that corner to be a little dark too. It helps support those grapes and push them forward. Just like that. So we've got a nice float in there. Comme I got the most wonderful goodie box last year from Kathy. Out of the blue, I get a bunch of glue, which, by the way, I am addicted to. I absolutely love this craft glue. If you guys haven't got a bottle, you've got to get some. And please, by all means, go to Kathy's website. Kathy, if you've got 5 minutes, put the link to your website up in the chat so people can go check out your site. Her stuff is amazing, and she's got some really cool stuff on her site. This is called Art Glitter Designer Dries Clear Adhesive. This stuff is fabulous. No, it doesn't. That magic mix, I love that it has, you can see a little bit of a sheen, but it goes away as soon as you put the matte spray on or the minute you varnish it. It just evens out very nicely. And I love, 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 love this float. Like I said, instead of wasting all of that glaze, you know. There we go. Now, our little butterfly here also needs a shadow on the right, so don't forget to do a little of this on there. A little drop shadow on our butterfly, just like so. Love it. Leaking women. Linda, that's hilarious. This glue is friggin' amazing. So I love how that looks. It just lifts the various elements off and kind of gives it a floaty effect, which is really pretty. So I'm going to dry that really well, and then we're going to start working on that lettering. I love that this lettering jumps out on this surface. It's just so pretty. So I'm going to put a light coat of warm white on this lettering. Yeah, the product does freeze in these temperatures. In Canada, though, we ship everything in with a hot pack inside to keep things from freezing. The name of the glue is called Art Glitter. And it's awesome stuff. Look at this. It dries clear. It dries quickly. I love the fact that it's tacky within minutes. It's even better than my Aleene's Craft tacky glue. I really love this one. And I find it dries more solid. It really does work exceptionally well. Love this stuff. She's turned me on to it. Now I can't live without it. So the lettering on this, we're going to use a little bit of warm white to base that. I'm going to give myself a clean palette because it's me, and I will put my elbow in it because that's how I roll. I can make a mess out of nothing. I got the Christmas card, but I haven't seen a birthday card yet. Mail is still a little slow. So I've got some warm white. I'm going to use a little bit of my Joe Sonia. Oh my goodness. There we go. A little bit of Joe Sonia. And I'm thinking I need a good rigger. Now I like a rigger for this simply because of all those straight lines. So I'm going to really thin out some of this warm white. So the nice part is this is not our final color, so we're just trying to fill in the space. And warm white looks so good underneath this because we're working with yellow. You want something with a little more opacity to fill the space before we put that yellow in. Oops. There we go. So it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be fully opaque, but we need a little bit of coverage. So that we get decent coverage on that with that yellow. So that marigold has such gorgeous warm contrast over top of this red. It's just such a bold color for the lettering. Very complementary. Red and yellow work so nicely together. So I spent about 2 hours yesterday putting submissions together. So now I'm just waiting. I'll wait in here if any of the classes get selected, or if I get selected. So as soon as I know, I will let you guys know. Take care, Sheila. Hi, Vicky. Thank you. Now, if you're feeling a little lazy like I am today, you could use a flat brush to do this. Just take a little care, making sure you get into all those corners. But ideally, you want it to be as even as you can get it, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Meaning it doesn't have to be fully opaque. This brush is terrible. Of course, I had to find like the roughest rigger in my dish. This one is just okay. I think this one's better. I have one rigger I refuse to get rid of. I sent in my submissions to Net, so now it'll just wait and see. We shall see. Net is an easy one for me to get to. You could use a larger one, Molly Ann. I prefer the number 2. If I really want to, I can make it fill that space quite easily. But I'm just taking a little care. There we go. La 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 la. Oh, net is so much fun. Just before I was there for the fall, just before the pandemic. And the only other convention that I've really submitted to since the pandemic was OKC, and then we all know what happened at that. Um, I ended up ill and not being able to travel, so um, I am doing much better this year, thank heavens. Knock on wood, or knock on faux wood in this case. So in general, I've been feeling healthy, so I decided I would submit. So keep your fingers crossed. I had so many people email me and ask if I was going to submit and would I submit, that I had a hard think, and I thought, I would really love. I really miss being around a group of creatives, so I thought, I'm going to do it, and I'm determined to stay healthy this year. So, been through enough. There we go. So you can see, even with just the white on there, that lettering really pops up. It really stands up quite nicely with that shading. It makes a world of difference to do that shading first. And then you end up with nice clean lettering. The lettering really does stand up quite nicely all on its own. And it helps when you have a brush that will hold paint. You know what? I've had this lettering stencil kickering around for years. I don't even remember where I got it. And I really liked the design, so I decided to put it to use. So I have no idea what this font is called. I have to go to the Alabama. I'm hoping, I know it's not far from Birmingham. I'm just trying to figure out what the travel would be like and how easy it is to get there. That's a big thing for me. So, yes, it is. It's a number 2 rigger. I mean, if you're not comfortable with a smaller one, a number 4 would work well. I don't often use anything larger than number 2 because I'm comfortable with it. But a number 4 would work very well for this size of font. So if you're more comfortable with the larger brush, you could use a 4. You don't care what I'm teaching? No. Well, thank you so much for the vote of confidence, Nancy. I appreciate that. I would love to meet you. I would love to meet all of you. I told Renee that I had submitted, so he was hemming and hawing about whether or not he could get away. Busy time of year for him at work, so if he can get away, I'm pretty sure he'd love to join me. It's exciting. The last time I was there, I had such a great time. It's such a fun place to meet up with other painters, and they do put on such a great event. Oh, well, you know what, Bonnie? I have made some Lulus. You are not alone. Hi, Elaine. Gale Vegas was always such a fun convention. It was so great meeting people there. Yes, we do. I agree. Life in the world kind of got in the way the last few years. So, poor Betty. Didn't want to go alone. Pat couldn't go? My phone is dinging. Okay. This is the only tedious part of this. Oh, I get the shingles vaccine as soon as I'm eligible. You better believe it. I'm not doing that again. If I can get through, if I can make it all the way to get that first shot, I'll be laughing. But for the last 4 years, almost made it, and then ended up with the bloody shingles before I could get the vaccine. So I'm I am determined to make it through. I'm not taking any chances this time around. That's twice that illness has stopped me from going to OKC. I got stuck in hospital once, and this time around I ended up with the shingles and wasn't allowed to travel. So let's see what we can do this time. There we go. Almost done with this. This is the tedious part of this, is getting this base coat in. Once this is in, then the rest is pretty straightforward, but it is an important thing. Had I been thinking ahead, I'd have done another board so I could, we'd be past this stage, but whatever. Oh, they're horrible. Downside is that I now have a recurring case of hepatic neuralgia from the shingles, which is not fun, but now on medication. Oh my goodness. Jessica, warm up. You gotta get warmed up near the wood stove. I love my wood stove. Don't think I'd have a house without one now. October and November, any time in Massachusetts is beautiful. And Boston is such a great city. I've been to Boston 3 times in my life, and I've thoroughly enjoyed each time. My grandmother, when they immigrated from Ireland, lived in Boston for a time, and then after the stock market crash in 29. They moved to their summer home in Nova Scotia, and that's where they've been living ever since. So, yes, we do need you there, Miss Miss Deb. Almost done. Oh my goodness. So, we've got one coat of warm white on there. As I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. But it's reasonable coverage. It's not fully opaque, a little streaky looking, and that's okay. So I'm going to dry that real quick, and then we're going to put that marigold on. Now, the marigold, when I do this base coat, I'm going to put a little bit of glaze medium in it. I want to keep that moving really smoothly so that we get nice crisp finishes. Having that bit of warm white underneath that yellow will give us much better coverage. Now, marigold, that's not marigold. I think it's marigold. Yeah, it's marigold. What was I thinking? Marigold, where's my marigold? There it is. So marigold is sort of this rustic yellow. It's a deep golden yellow. And it's fairly opaque. Fairly. But it is a yellow, so it has its issues. But, oh, Miss Betty, I hope you come. I would love to see you. So, I'm using that number 2 rigger. I'm going to put a little bit of glaze medium in this paint, just so that it comes off the brush nice and smooth. But look at this. You should be able to get moderate coverage, fairly good coverage in one coat. Look at how opaque that is now. If I put this over top of that red, we would not get that look. It would be a little grayed out. It would look very streaky. Whereas with that base of white down, it gives you very nice coverage. And then look at the contrast. Now you can really see that shadow popping off of that background. I love this color. Marigold and antique gold are two of my favorite yellows over reds, with reds. If you're going to be working on a vintage red, like this country red or tomato. Tomato is another gorgeous color that this finish looks great in. Those more rustic deep reds, I love to see paired with these deep golden yellows like marigold, like antique gold. They are just so rich. Those yellows complement that red so nicely. Not just because they're yellow and red, but because tonally they work really well together. And I just love me some yellow. Whoops-a-daisy. A little slap happy with that. There we go. This is a nice, rich, dark, deep yellow. Great tone. And as I said, having that little coat of warm white underneath it just gives you such nice coverage. Look at that. It's so pretty against that red. So I'm going to continue putting this yellow down. Now I work fairly quickly when we're on camera, obviously, because time is an issue, but take your time when you're doing this so that you get nice clean edges on this lettering. It just makes such a difference. Because of that high contrast against that red, if you've got rough edges and irregular edges, they're going to stand out. So take your time making sure that those edges are clean and sharp. And you're going to be so happy you did, because it makes such a difference in the end. Even though the high contrast is really beautiful, what question? What makes a color qualify for rustic? I think tone-wise, it doesn't necessarily make it rustic, but they're colors that I associate with a rustic theme or a country theme, and those are reds that have a little brown. They're a little muted. They're not so hot, as opposed to this is a Tuscan red. You see the difference? The Tuscan red has a really high, bold, sharp, crisp tone to it. And this has a slightly muted tone. So this one has, that slightly browned out as opposed to grayed out. So this one takes on more of that rustic, aged look, like it's been weathered or it's been outside for a while. Whereas the Tuscan red has a bit more blue in it, so it's a little cooler and a little sharper. So that's the difference when you look at these two tones together. One has that very almost an orangey tone to it, and this one has a bright, vibrant cherry color. So that's, to me, is the difference. So one has sort of an aged appearance, like this country red, and the other has more of a fresh appearance, a more vibrant and intense color. And I feel the same way about this yellow. It's a little bit muted. It's a little browned out, and it's a less bright, less sunny, and takes on more of a golden tone. And that leans toward, again, that more rustic and more country type look. That's what, for me, that's more of a personal description than it is a technical one. For me, those colors have a rustic feel to them. Anything that is slightly muted and deeper. And I love country red. It's just one of those reds. I can heat it up or I can tone it down. It's just such a great and very versatile red. I can use it for so many things. And yes, Tuscan red is more transparent as well. It's a blue red. It's a cooler red. And this country red is a warmer red, and it's got a yellow, leans towards the yellow and the oranges. Whereas the Tuscan red leans towards the blues and the purples and the magentas. Ooh. Oh. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Carol Vanderpool. Nice to have you with us. Heritage brick. I love heritage brick. Yeah, it would. It would make a great background for this. It would end up being a little darker, a little deeper, but it would have a nice rich finish. Yes. I love heritage brick. Again, that's one of those more rustic reds, but it has a bit of purple in it too. Still a lovely color. Hi, Ramona. Thank you, sweetheart. Frozen iguanas. I honestly didn't think that was a real thing until just recently. Frozen iguanas. I thought that was hilarious the first time I heard it. But then I realized there's actually a scientific explanation for it, but it cracked me up the first time I heard it. Frozen iguanas. Too funny. Poor creatures. I would imagine that a lot of the wildlife in Florida would be a bit shocked to discover the temperatures were near zero. Robin. I'm glad you're enjoying this. We have a giz too. A gizmo. My big tomcat. He came and gave me a big snuggle this morning at about 5:30. He likes to snuggle. Comes and gets his scritches at in the middle of the night. I'm awake anyway, so what the hell. Hi, Noreen. Thank you so much. Well, I have a booth. I don't know yet, to be honest. I have to, if I find out when I'm teaching, I may book a booth. Or I could be working in somebody else's booth. I don't know yet. But those are things we'll plan as time goes on until I figure out what's going on. I know Dynasty, Jill has a booth there. Dynasty will have a booth. So I'm kind of hoping I'll be able to, at worst, stop by, demo, and talk to people, and, you know. Yep, does his business fast. You're minus 14C, which is warm for you. Yep. Southwest Florida, it's amazing. It could have been 39 this morning. It's sunny and 65. Wow. Crazy. I don't know what the temperature is here. I think it's like minus 6 or 7 or something. I know I can usually tell what the temperature is based on how my husband is dressed when he takes Maze out for her walk, her morning walk. And this morning he was in a hoodie and boots. So I don't think it was quite warm enough, but I don't think he needed a parka. Well, you've got one more week. I think it's Thursday or Friday. Friday. You've got until Friday to use that coupon code on the website. The happy birthday code. It's a good one this month. So you've got another few days to use that. So almost done with this letter. I'm sorry this one is taking a little longer. I know I'll have plenty of help. It's the logistics. It's not the want, it's the logistics. It is Alabama. I'm going to have to check on flights and whatnot. I would love to go. And it's for 2026, so I have lots of time to, sort of sort out the planning. But most of the time, it isn't the lack of desire to do these conventions. It's quite simply the logistics. I live in a very small place, and we have a teeny tiny little airport. I refer to as the Fredericton Airport Hair Care and Tire Center. It's a lovely airport, but it's still a small airport. And we have a limited number of flights that go out and a limited number of connections. And so it sometimes makes it very difficult to get to other places. Chattanooga was actually great. OKC, as much as I thoroughly enjoy it, it is very difficult for me to get to because of the number of flights are very limited. I very often can't get to Oklahoma without a layover of up to 24 hours. So it does make it difficult. Which means, having to stay somewhere else and then expense becomes an issue. So, yeah. Oop, warming up in your neck of the woods. Good for you, Robin. But net is an easy one because it's only 2 flights for me. I can get from here to Halifax in 35 minutes. and then it's a direct flight into Boston. So Boston is an easy one. Not too bad. But some places are really difficult. Could come to Detroit and drive down with us. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm kind of hoping that my girl Faye is going to come with. She really wants to go. She's never been to a painting convention, and I think it's high time. I think she'd have a blast. And she finds out just how crazy painters are when they're left unsupervised. Well, our little airport's about 25 minutes, 25, 30 minutes from me. And then I got to if I have to go through Toronto, it's another, 2-hour flight from here to Toronto. And then I have to make a connection in Toronto. And in Oklahoma, there is no direct flights from Toronto. So I have to fly from Toronto to either New York City or Chicago, either one. And then I can get to Oklahoma. So it's at minimum 3 flights, at minimum. The last time I was there, it was 4. So it's not an easy place to get to from where I live. Boston is a piece of cake because I can fly right into Boston from Halifax, and Halifax is only, a 25, 30-minute flight from here. So that one's an easy one. So there we go. Okay, I've got 1 coat of that yellow on that lettering. 1 coat. It's not a perfect base coat, but that's okay because we're putting 2 other colors over top of it, 3 other colors over top of this. So I'm going to dry this really well. And I love this vivid yellow over top of the... Going through Toronto's a nightmare. I agree. Montreal is not too bad, but even fewer connections. So, thank you, Carol. You guys are awesome. Really feeling the love today. Made me so leaky this morning. Here we go. I love that color. Just love that color. So, for the lettering, I love this part because for me, this actually just makes the lettering pop out. I just love how it looks so rich over top of it. So, we're going to put a float at the bottom of each letter with a little bit of tea berry. I know this seems like an odd color choice for this, but we're going to use this in conjunction with another one. Hi, Cindy. To get a nice rich tone. Oof, goodness. Ew. I hate it when they get that snotty thing in there. It's gross. Gross, gross, gross. So I'm going to use a little bit of tea berry. I'm going to blend this out. I want a not too harsh a float, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to blend this out so we get a nice distribution of color. So we're going to put a float at the bottom of each letter with tea berry. And I'm going to bring that color about not quite halfway up each letter. Just like that. So I'm going to walk that float up a little bit to about not quite halfway. And that tea berry gives us this really pretty light orange tone. See that? It's a soft yellow tone. It's gorgeous. And I love this color. This tea berry has very quickly become a favorite of mine. It's not that it's fully opaque, it's not, but it has enough coverage that it gives you a really nice rich look. So I'm using the tip of the brush to lay some color in at the base. So I got a nice straight line. And then I'm using the whole chisel edge of the brush to walk that float up, like so. Isn't that pretty? I just love this color on top of yellow. It's just so pretty. So use the tip of the brush, give you a clean line across the bottom, and then use the whole chisel edge to bring the color halfway up. Not quite halfway up, just like that. Pretty, pretty. This tea berry is just such a pretty tone. It's not really a coral, not really a red. It sort of falls in the middle somewhere. Kale Jensen. What's for dinner tonight? We are having a rosemary pork tenderloin. I've had it marinating since yesterday. And I'll probably do some roasted potatoes. I like roasted potatoes with pork tenderloin. We had sushi last night. Sushi was very good. I didn't make it, I ordered it. Local place here. It's very nice. Tasty enough, did the trick. Tomorrow we're having Chinese because that's my choice. My dinner is my choice, and I don't cook on my birthday. The fonts. I find my fonts on fontbundles.ca. There's a .com, sorry. There's a number of websites that sell fonts. I found that Font Bundles is one of the most, certainly the most affordable. And they do have a great many fonts that are actually free. So you can go there and download free fonts. And there are several others, but that's the one that I use the most. Ooh. Pork chops and fried apples. Oh my goodness, that sounds lovely. I like pork chops with applesauce, but fried apples, oh my goodness, that just sounds heavenly. So I've got this nice rich, look at how pretty that is. It's nice and warm, almost flame-like. And then there's a spot here where this Y overlaps the R. And I like a little float of tea berry there as well. It gives a little separation. You see, again, and pulls that letter, gives it a little more depth. I love that look. So it takes on a really rich look. I love how that lettering takes on this really warm tone, as if there's this nice shadow down at the bottom and then all this rich color. So one of the things that I really like to do is I want to make this really rich. And so we're going to use a little bit of another color that I really love is this one, Red Spice. What is this? This is Red Spice. This one is, somebody said, isn't it like burnt sienna? In a way, yes, it does have that burnt sienna tone, right? It does look a lot like burnt sienna. But I wanted to show you something. I'm going to rinse this out. The Red Spice is really transparent. And so it takes on an almost golden orangey tone. So I'm going to blend this out. And then I want you to keep an eye on this tea berry here. And watch how rich this gets almost immediately. That little bit of red spice, look how it heats up. But it doesn't take away anything from that tea berry, but it heats it right up. This is such a gorgeous shading color for reds, oranges, yellows. It's just, Look at the heat it provides, but it doesn't become overwhelming. It doesn't brown anything out. So it actually complements that tea berry just beautifully. I wanted the tea berry for the additional heat, the additional red underneath. So when you put that layer of that red spice, look at the heat it generates. It goes from being this nice, rich, warm tone to this hot and spicy color. I love it. I just think it looks so great. So again, I use the tip of the brush to get some color in, and then I float and walk it up. And I just love how it softens everything. Any boundaries between colors suddenly go away. All that heat comes to life. Look at that. Just gorgeous. I love that it's so transparent that you can manipulate this color this way. It just gives you such great, great heat with very little effort. Love it. Look at that. So you have this really nice, rich, warm tone on top of that golden color. And when you put that red spice over it, all that heat, you get all of that heat. So any little areas where the floats are perhaps not as perfect as you thought they were, putting in this little bit of that red spice eliminates that. So all of those borders go away. So here we go again, right over top of that tea berry. These colors are beautifully compatible. I am so excited about the new colors this year. So look at that. Don't you love that fiery tone? I just think it's so pretty. It's like a deep golden color. Now we're going to come up here to this little shadow that we put here. And I'm going to bring some of that red spice over top of that tea berry again. And don't be afraid to walk that float down. There's nothing that says that you can't bring that float a little further. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have a border. It doesn't need to stop in a specific place. It doesn't. There we go. So look at the heat that produces, having those two layers of color over top. So I'm going to dry this really well. And we're going to highlight the tops of these letters with a little bit of baby duck. I love this color. I'm a big fan of baby duck. And it works really nicely on top of this gold. Oh, Deb Daniker, one of my new favorites. I have not played with them yet, so I have no idea how they're going to function, but I'm really excited about that gingham blue. To be excited about any specific color. Patty Johns, we do not have a list yet of discontinued colors. There probably will be one, because there are so many colors in the line that just do not sell, just do not move. But there will be a list fairly soon, I would imagine. So I'm going to take a little bit of baby duck. Now baby duck is a bit more opaque, has a little better coverage. And this is going to give us a really nice soft highlight at the top of our lettering. So I use the same method I used the last time. I use the tip to lay in a little color and then float it down. Just like that. And walk it down to about a third of the way. So the highlight is subtle. It is not an in-your-face highlight. It's not harsh. It's not super bright. But it is enough. It gives you a little bit of depth and a little bit of light at the top of this. Just take your time. And as I said, walk that float down about a third of the way. So you should end up with a bright brighter yellow at the top. It gradually fades into that mid value in the center of the letter, and then gradually into that dark orange at the bottom. So you get almost a flame-like effect in the letter. But it's subtle, and it should be subtle. And again, 1/3 of the way. What a difference. I love that you get this really nice, bright, soft yellow. And that's one of the reasons I chose the baby duck. There's 100 different yellows I could have used. I chose this one because it's a little bit more opaque and a little bit softer. And it's about 2 values lighter than that mid value that's in there. Hi, Linda. So it does make this lettering nice and soft. And you can take your time doing it. There's no rush to do this. I mean, I do this in 2 hours, but I can guarantee you that doing the original took me a lot longer than that. Because I have to plan it out. I want to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to. So there we go. Such a pretty highlight. It's soft, it's subtle, and it looks great. Gingham blue for one. I am looking forward to that one. There's a teal in there that I really love. I'm interested in all of them. The green is another one that really... The base color is marigold, Kathy. Sunset gold would be pretty too. Be a little bit brighter. The sunset gold is a bit more sunny. But it would be a little bit brighter, but yes, it would work too. So I'm almost done with this. I'll finish off these letters. And then we'll put a final highlight on. Oops. I got color on my background. So far, I've used 3 brushes. I've used my big old fugly brush for base coats and for applying the glaze. I've used a 1/2-inch angle for all of the shading and the highlighting, and I've used a number 2 rigger for my lettering. Not a huge number of brushes in use for this piece. So you don't need to, have a ton. We are going to use a stencil brush for most of our base coating. What happened, Norma Loser? What did I miss? So just such a pretty, pretty tone. I like that more glow, I think, is what I'm looking for, is that glow in that lettering. Oh my goodness, Norma, I'm so sorry. Your little community seems to have taken a beating. And almost finished. Just going to finish off this one letter, the Y here. There we go. I love that baby duck on that marigold. It's so pretty. So we have our lettering. I love how this looks. It gives you that glow. Very nice. Now, at this point, one of the things that I do like to do is to clear away some graphite lines. And for a particular reason. So I'm going to dry this really well. And we're going to clear away some graphite lines on this lettering. Facebook has been acting up all morning. I was trying to reply to a bunch of comments earlier, and half of them wouldn't post. So I'm clearing up graphite lines. I like doing this at this point because there's always a few little wobbles and bobbles that you need to take care of. And it's almost, if you can get rid of the graphite, it'll give you a clearer idea of where those wobbles and bobbles are. And then you can clean them up. So, and I'm going to show you how I clean them up. So there we go. I erased the graphite lines. Doesn't look too bad, actually. So I'm going to take a little bit of soft black and my angled shader, a little bit of glazing medium. And I'm going to blend this out so that it's not full strength. But this is where I come in any little areas where I have perhaps gone over the edge a little bit, where I've gotten, a little bit of that float has gotten on my background. I can just float a little bit of that soft black back in, and it will clean up those little rough spots. So it gives you the ability to clean things up nicely. So any place where you're not happy with, it's not as crisp as you'd like, you can put a little bit of that soft black in there and it'll clean up all those little wobbles and bobbles so that you don't have rough edges anywhere. Oh, Robin, I feel that pain. So I'm going to dry this and we're going to do these leaves. The leaves are going to work up really quickly. And they're serrated. So there's a rough edge on grape leaves. So this is going to be a fun one. And it's super simple. So our base color for these leaves is lush green. I love lush green. This is one of the new colors that they implemented a couple of years ago. And I really like that color. It covers nicely. It's nice and rich. I'm going to use a number 5 round to base coat these. And the nice part is that you don't really have to be overly concerned with how perfect these leaves are, because we're going, especially at the edges. So don't stress out trying to get them absolutely perfect, because the highlighting technique I'm going to use is going to take care of anything that isn't what it should be. So you don't have to worry too much. And we're going to do this in one coat. I know. I hate base coating. In case you hadn't figured that out. So the less of it I can do, the better. So I'm going to base coat these leaves. I do them quickly. I do them in the shape of the leaf. I'm working around that stem, the branch for the grapes. Oh, goodness. See? What did I say about me putting my fingers in wet paint? I can do it in a heartbeat. So I'm working around. I'm working around those grapes. Just tucking in as close as I can get. I'm not going to be too concerned if I happen to go over a grape a little bit. That's okay too. And I like to leave a little narrow space between the various elements. So if there's a leaf tucked in, as in this case, I'm going to leave a small sliver of space between them. And you might have noticed I left my line drawing in place. It's taped in. There was a reason for that too. So going around my grapes. Oh. Miss Mays has something to say today. And then we've got another leaf down here at the back. And again, I'm going to leave a narrow space between the two elements. It just prevents having to trace them again, quite honestly. I don't like doing that either. There we go. So I've got leaves. Look at that. Now we've got two small leaves over here. I'm going to use a rigger to base coat these in. There's two little ones over here off of this vine. There we go. I think I'll tuck in a third one. Just because I had two leaves in there. I thought it was kind of out of balance, so I put another one in. Robin, I can feel that pain. I have 5 ruptured discs. I have 3 in my lower back and 2 in my neck. So there we go. I've got my leaves base coated. I'm going to dry this really well. We're going to shade these with a little bit of black green. As most of you know, I rarely put more than one coat of color down for base coats because I use so many different layers of color over top. So for this one, I'm going to give myself a clean palette again because I managed to use up the whole thing for like 5 colors. So there we go. So the color I'm using to shade this is black green. You can use plantation pine. You can use black forest green, as long as it's nice dark green. It really doesn't matter which one it is, as long as it's nice and dark. Black forest is nice because it's got that, a little teal undertone to it that is really pretty. So I'm going to be using a little bit of black green. And again, I blend this out. I very rarely use colors full strength. So first thing I'm going to do is separate all of these leaves and then shade in behind and underneath those grapes, just like that. It's not a neat and tidy float. Doesn't have to be. Just like that. So I've got it separated. I'm going to do the same thing to the one down here. Just like so. Easy peasy. So those are separated. I'm going to dry that. Robin, I think it depends on where your herniated discs are located. Mine are ruptured. I have two at L3 and 4, and L6, which means they're all down in the lowest part of my back, or whatever it is. One is L3 and L4, and the other one skips a disc, and then it's the next one. And then the ones in my neck, they're all from an accident, so the neck one bothers me more than any of them, to be honest. So I'm putting a float down the center vein of each leaf, like so. Boys, I messed that one up. Not enough water in my brush. There we go. Much better. Okay. And then don't forget that these ones also have a vein coming off of them. So we're going to put a nice little float down there too. So we've got center veins on all of our leaves. There we go. There we are. Now I'm going to deepen this one because it just completely wonky. There we go. There we are. So I've got some nice shading in. I'm going to shade underneath these grapes. I forgot about this one. There we are. So we've got some nice shading in. Doesn't have to be perfect. It can be, Gail. It can be. I have spinal stenosis too. And no, there is nothing they can do about it, and that's misery. There we go. So, little float at the bottom of these smaller leaves. It's just a little U-shaped float where it connects to the little stem. I've heard good things about those, Linda. The grounding sheets. Yeah. Yep. Pinched sciatic nerve. Or there's another nerve there too. I forget what that one's called. Oh, God. So I'm going to dry all of this really well, and then we're going to highlight these leaves with my favorite, a little bit of margarita. So I'm going to load my brush as if to float. And this is how we're going to get that serrated edge on these leaves. So I start out at the tip of the leaf, and I'm going to put a float in like this. So I've got a nice little float there. Then I'm going to stand the brush on its chisel edge, and I'm just going to work back towards the center of the leaf, towards that vein in the center. So I'm going to tap and pull. I'm going back towards the center. Nice little float. And a tap and a pull. So you get this nice serrated look. There we go. See how it gives you a nice ruffled edge on the edge of that leaf? This is just a fun way to do these leaves, and it works up fairly quickly. So it's not a smooth and elegant float. It's going to look a little rough, and that's okay. Because the edge of grape leaves are a little rough. They're serrated. They have a little texture at the edges of them. And so it makes for a very pretty leaf. So there we go. Float the center vein, stand it up on the chisel edge and get that little serrated edge on those leaves. It adds nice texture. You can do it in little clusters of 3 or 4 if you like. You can do it any way you want. But I like that little serrated look to the leaves, and it adds a nice texture to things. So it's pretty. There we go. And I like the brightness of it. So once you've done the edges, then you can come back in and do the center veins with that, just a nice little float. Opposite that shading. Look at that. Oh, goodness. Not enough liquid in my brush. So float and then chisel edge. I love that texture. Little float. That little bit of texture makes such a difference to things. And then I'm going to show you a really fun way to accentuate these leaves a little bit and make them look a little less like every other leaf, I think is the term I was looking for. I think sometimes, because I use the same colors a lot of the time for leaves and greenery, I don't deviate a whole lot. Although I've got a piece coming up that I deviated a whole lot. I always worry about it, all the leaves looking exactly the same. So I have a really neat method for making the leaves look a little bit different and a little bit more realistic. I realize this is not realistic painting, so I really like every once in a while to add something just to give it a little more interest. And I've got a nifty technique for that. So we have highlights in place. I have texture, which I love. I love the texture. And this is a fun piece. Now, one of the colors that I've been really excited about using for this piece is this. I love thermal green. I love, love, love a little bit of neon. And the reason is this. It just fires up colors. So you've got that lighter green in place. I'm going to come in over that lighter green with a little bit of that neon. And it just fires things up really nicely. Look at that. So all of a sudden, these leaves become really vibrant. Isn't that pretty? And it keeps them from looking meh. I love that this neon just gives everything a little more energy. And we need a little energy. Look at that. Love, love, love. And it's not even a pretty float. It's not even a perfect float. It's just, get a little green on it. I love it. Adds a little burst of energy to things. And any place that you've got that lighter green, that little, in this case, that margarita, having a little bit of neon over top of it, it needs that lighter color to really pop. Look how pretty that is. So we've got all kinds of life in here. I want to show you one thing. We're going to come back to our base color, which is that country red. Just a little bit of it. We don't need a ton of it, but just a little. So we're going to bring in some of that country red, and you're going to really blend this out. And I love this look. I like to bring in a little bit of the red just at the edge in a few spots. Just float a little bit right at the edge of the leaf in just a few spots. Doesn't have to be much, but that little bit of red just adds a little touch of realism. Look at that. Especially with that neon, it just seems to give it a little age. You know, the leaves are never perfect. There's always a little rust or something on there. Hi, Deb Bloomfield. Oh my goodness, you just got your pipes thawed. That's terrible. So, you can always bring in a little bit of reflected color into your leaves at any time. You can wait and leave that until the very end if you want to, but a little bit of that other color just gives this a little bit more life. So a little pop of reflected color in there. So I'm going to dry this. We'll finish off these two small leaves, and then we're going to talk about grapes, because these are fun. Doing these grapes are fun. So I'm going to dry that really well. And I'm going to quickly finish off these two little leaves down here. A little bit of margarita at the tip. Here we go. I had a little too much moisture in my brush. I still do. Good gravy. There we are. So, a little bit of that yellow. And then we're going to bring a little of that neon into those as well. You and your fisherman's friends.
I need them.
You need them. So a little bit of that neon onto the tips of those leaves. I just love how that looks.
They're still saying happy birthday.
They are. It's awesome. Hi, Yvonne. Thanks, Peg. Kay Reynolds needs a burst of energy. Well, there you go. We're going to get some more when we do these grapes. Now, for the grapes, I'm using, ta-da, a single stencil brush. And we're going to start with soft black. Little bit of soft black. Now we're going to move from darkest to lightest in this. And this is such a simple technique. So we're going to start with the grapes that are farthest away from you, which means the ones back here. You know, those ones back in the background. All these ones back here along the bottom and back here. Those are the ones we're going to start with. So I'm going to start with this one. We're going to use a stencil. So you match the size, approximate size of that grape with the stencil. And then you're just going to stencil a little color in. Ta-da! And we're going to do that all the way along back here. You don't have to do the whole circle, but just fill that space with soft black. I love this color. Soft black is a great color. And then we're going to come down to this one here. Remember, we've got grapes along the bottom. So you see, we're filling in just some of these grapes down here. So this is our soft black. So you can see we're getting the darker grapes in there first. Easy peasy, right? So now you've got a stencil brush full of soft black. So now we're going to move to Cherry Merlot. I love this color. So we've got a dirty brush filled with Cherry Merlot and soft black. So we're going to put that color in. So now we've got two tones in here. So I need that one. Cherry Merlot. I love that you can play with this a little bit. Which one? There it is. So it takes a little bit of time, but remember, you're working with a dirty brush. It's got a little bit of both colors in it now. Comme ça. And we got this one down here. Comme ça. So it gives you the ability to layer in grapes a little bit. So I've got Cherry Merlot and I've got soft black grapes in there. I'm going to bring this up so you can see what I've done. So all of your darker grapes are done. Thanks, Dab. So now, dirty stencil brush. This is the fun part. You can have so much fun with this. Now, we're going to pick up a little bit of cherry red. Remember, we've got, or not cherry red, country red. We've got cherry Merlot on our stencil brush. We're going to pick up a little bit of country red. So now we've got those two reds in there. And we're going to do that next layer. Right here. So there's that country red and the cherry Merlot together. I love this layer. This is so fun. So as you go, you're starting to fill in all of those spaces. So cherry Merlot and a little bit of country red. Et voila. So you can see what's happening is each of those colors is getting a little bit brighter. And to me, this is just a fun way to fill in space, to fill in those grapes. And it's easy. And it's quite reliable. And I love having that little bit of cherry Merlot in there. Gives it a purple tone. Or if you did what I just did and I missed one. There we go. So put some cherry Merlot in. Now each time you put this in, you're getting a little more of the country red in. So each time these grapes get a little brighter. So I'm going to dry that. This is just a fun way to get it in. So I've got a little bit of that country red in here. I'm going to grab a little tea berry. Lucy, did you forget what day of the week it was? I've done that. So I'm picking up a little bit of tea berry. Et voila. And I've got country red and a little bit of tea berry. So we're gradually getting brighter as we move along. And filling in each of these grapes. I'm going to come back in because I missed one. And just dry it as you work along. Hey, Lucy, are you still hurting? Oh my gosh, you poor thing. How the heck did you hurt yourself, girl? So I'm going to grab a little bit of that cherry Merlot again because I missed another grape here. I'm kind of special that way. And I'm going to grab a little of tea berry. Look at this. So fun. And I've got a couple of smaller grapes here that need some love. So I've got a little one here. I'm going to bring a little of that. I love tea berry because it's just, you know, gives you a nice little shot of lighter color. So there, look at this. Such a fun way to get lots of interesting textures and colors in things. Look at that. Now, once you've got a few of these colors in place, you can start playing with them. So if you want a brighter color on some of the smaller ones, bring them up. Don't be afraid to lay in some color. And if you got an open space like I do here that doesn't seem to have much in it, this is the perfect spot to put some of those lighter values. And I'm loving this one. And the fun part is that you are not obligated to keep them that way. You can play all you want. Because you're still going to do some shading and highlighting on these. So you can play with this all you like. So if there's something, say you want a really bright grape. See? So it's just layering various tones of these, all of these colors together. So you get all of these interesting shadows and highlights, and you still get the texture from this background in there. So it creates lots of interesting things going on in these grapes. So I've got one more grape down here that I have to do. I want this one to be a little lighter still, so I'm going to grab a little more tea berry and tuck that in. So I think I'm happy with my grapes thus far. And that's how you paint grapes with a stencil. So all we have left to do for this is to shade and highlight. So we've got all of the base colors in. We've got all of the various tones created. So we're just going to do some shading and some highlighting. And this is where all of these grapes are really going to pop. And it's also where you're going to see a lot more of the texture show up. So I'll make sure this is good and dry. I'm loving this. Loving this so far. I'm going to switch to a smaller angled shader. I'm going to be using, which one am I using? I'm using a 3/8. This is a faux squirrel because I can't see my black gold one. I don't know where my black gold is. There it is. Okay, that one. A 3/8 black gold. So I'm going to get this good and wet. And our shading color for this is soft black. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of soft black, and this is where we're going to shade some of these grapes. Now, I like to shade them so that there is a tiny little space between the edge and where my shadow starts. So if I'm shading, say this one, I'm going to leave a little sliver of the base color showing. Just a little sliver. And I'm going to do that for a lot of these. Just like that. Now my light source is coming from this side. So it's actually coming from the upper left and coming down. So our shadow is going to be on the bottom. And then I'm going to separate some of these grapes with a shadow as well. So the shadow, the grapes that are tucked in behind are going to get shaded. And this is where you're going to get those nice clean shadows. We want nice clean floats here. And this makes such a difference in the end to how these look. Once all of these grapes are separated, that little shadow makes a world of difference. There we go. Hi, Robin. So I like shading all of those grapes that are underneath, just deepen them a little bit so that they pop forward. It pushes all the lighter value ones toward the viewer. So it does make things stand out so nicely. Little shadow, separate, little shadows. Makes a big difference. And again, this works up fairly quickly because a lot of the work has already been done because of that method of base coating. They've already established where they are. You've already established which are the darker grapes, which are the lightest ones. And so it makes separating these a whole lot easier, but it also literally covers about 2/3 of that work for you without having to do a whole lot of work. And I absolutely love when all these grapes are separated. You have great depth with very little effort. Simple little float. I did a faux finish on a tabletop for a dear friend of mine. She had a thing for butterflies, so I used sterling silver paint and soft black paint to create an effect that made it look like there was millions of butterflies floating on her tabletop. And it's a surprisingly simple technique, but it does require just a little bit of patience, but it works really well. And it's much the same idea as this, where you're stenciling different layers of similar colors together. So you get a really nice effect out of it. And I like that none of these colors are fully opaque, so the texture that's in this background becomes part of the grapes. So we have a nice collection of grapes going here. So our highlight color for these is a little bit of tea berry. And I love what this color does for all of these grapes. Tea berry is a little more opaque, but not fully opaque. So I'm going to put a nice float of tea berry opposite the shading on my grape. And this one you can take right to the edge, although a little sliver is not a bad idea. And watch what happens to these grapes. That little bit of tea berry. It's not a really obvious highlight, but that color is just fabulous. Even on those darker grapes, don't forget to put a highlight on those darker grapes because they are also catching light, but it's a little more subtle. And I love tea berry for this. It's just such a great color to highlight all of these little grapes with. Look at this. Now this is not about having a really obvious grapes. The whole point behind this one was to work with the background color that was established. And so we're utilizing that background as part of the finish. And it also supports those grapes. And all of these grapes are going to have some light on them at some point. So because this color is somewhat transparent, not perfectly so, but somewhat, it works really well. And it's going to work really a lot better in just a moment when we start putting on all of these beautiful, bright highlights. we're going to use some neons for that. So this is just such a fabulous color for these grapes. This. Little bit of tea berry. Great color. So look at the difference that that little bit of tea berry does. It's kind of smoky. Gives it that nice rich tone. They look kind of frosted, but this is the fun part. So we're going to use a little bit of a little touch of warm white. Just a little. I'm a big fan of a little bit of warm white. I just think it gives us a little bit of brightening. So we're going to use a touch of it. Just a touch. We don't need a lot of white on this. And this is our kind of, the brightest highlight we're going to do is this white. So, and it's going to be a short one. I don't want a ton of it on here. It's just kind of where that light impact point is going to be. We're going to use a little bit of that warm white. And it is just a little. It's a small stroke at the top. You know, in the center of that first highlight that we did. It isn't a big highlight. It's just a little stroke. So you can see it's just giving us a little more light. It's a very soft, washed out float. And then we're going to use a rigger and a little bit of warm white. We're going to put a highlight in. These are just light impact points. And all of those ones that we just did, I'm going to put just a dot like this. And it's a small dot, not a ton of highlight. And it's not on every grape. This tiny little dot is going to go on those ones that are really facing the light more than others. So we're not putting them everywhere. So that little dot of white gives us that gloss. So I'm going to dry this really well. And then we're going to do the final layer of color over top of this. So I just want to make sure that that little dot of white is completely dry before I do this. This is just such a fast way to do those grapes. Yeah, they do look. So I'm going to come back to my 1/2 inch angle and a little bit of that Joe Sonia's Fast Dry, and then we're going to use a little bit of this. This is Sizzling Pink. This is that other neon. I know. It's like, whoa. And we're going to pick up a little of that, and we're going to blend it out. And we're going to highlight the grapes with this. And you're going to see what this does. Our grapes are suddenly, and I'm going to do it to all of them because I don't want, you know, just a few to look lush. I want them all to look lush. So I'm using a little bit of that neon pink, and I'm going right over that white dot, right over all of those highlights on every grape, including those dark ones in the back. Right there. And this is what makes them pop off of this background. It is enough to separate them from that original background and still retain all the texture, everything that we worked so hard to get from that background. So there's that little, come on, get on there. I love how this looks. So that little bit of neon, it's not in your face, but look what it does for those grapes. So all of those grapes now take on that really lush, shiny look. Super lush. So we just have a few little finishing touches to do to these grapes. And look how lush they look. We went from having something that was almost lost in that background to shoving them forward. So we have a few little things to do. And I'm going to use a rigger. And I'm going to use a little bit of salted caramel. This is another color that came out last year that I just love. Robin. So salted caramel and asphaltum. I know, I haven't used asphaltum yet. Isn't that a shock? So I've got salted caramel and a little bit of asphaltum. And this is going to be our stem. So pick up a little salted caramel on your rigger. And at the same time, you're going to pick up a little bit of asphaltum. So this is a dirty brush deal. So there's some stems inside. Oops, I didn't mix that very well. 2 little stems in here. And then the stems that come off of the grapes. Little stem in there. I like to put a little asphaltum in it so that it doesn't look really, really bright. And then there's a little stem in here. But I like to have those stems done with that salted caramel. I just think it's a nice color for this. Now you can come back in and add, if you want more contrast, you can use a little bit of thinned lamp black to shade these, just a little. Just to separate them more if you want a little more contrast. But I kind of like them that they blend a little bit into that background. So I'm going to dry that. And I missed one. Good gravy, Marie. There we go. Now I'm going to grab my liner brush. I need my extra long detail liner. And we're going to take a little bit of margarita. I love margarita. It's just such a pretty green. And we're going to pick up a little bit of warm white, because I like it a little more opaque. I don't really necessarily want it lighter, I just want it a little more opaque. So I always throw a little bit of warm white into it. And we're going to use this green to do this. So there's our curlicues. Oh goodness, did I ever mess that up? And those vines. And I love this. I like those little fine lines, scribbly lines at the outside edge of my leaves. This just works for me. And I like to do the same thing at the edges of the leaves. I like that little highlight. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be dead on the edge of the leaf. It can go off the leaf. It can go on the leaf. It can have a little curlicue at the end of it if you want. The whole point behind it, I've got a little too much in there, is that it softens and details the leaves at the same time. So they don't look so rigid. I always like this look. And I love me a curlicue, so I always like to put a little something at the end. I just think it's pretty. It's a me thing. And you can add, a little stroke to that highlight. If you want to accentuate some of the veins in the leaves, this is the perfect time to do that. Don't be afraid to add little details like that. There's nothing wrong with it. And I like the loose and almost casual look of this. It's a nice little contrast to everything else being so crisp and clean. There we go. So I love me a good curlicue. I love me a little, vines and tendrils. That is a thing for me. I like those things. So I'm going to dry this really well. And again, I will come in with an eraser and clean up all of the graphite lines. And I in particular like the black erasers for that because I don't find it polishes your background. And it doesn't damage all of that delicate paint, especially those delicate line work and whatnot. I like to get rid of my graphite lines. And as I said, once you've got all of that cleaned up, you can come back in and deepen any shadows. That you feel you need deepening. So we have a little butterfly here. And I'm going to base coat that with a little bit of warm white. Because we're going to be using, and do I want the butterfly in behind that letter? Yes, I do. I couldn't remember how I did that. I had to look at the original. Now, I like doing this type of thing on these 8x10 boards, but it works just as well on a canvas. So you can do 8x canvas, you can do it on one of those cradle panels. You could do this on almost anything. The design fits within an 8x10, so anything within that size format will work just fine. So it's an easy surface to translate to, or an easy design to translate to almost any surface. It makes for a nice project when you don't have to go rushing around trying to get exactly the same surface. You can use what you have on hand. I mean, let's face it, we all have stuff in our studio. Rosanna, there you go. I have trouble with curlicues. Any tips? Yes, hold your brush further back. That's the best tip. You'll have better control, believe it or not, if you pull your hand back on the brush. When I'm doing lettering and whatnot, base coating, my hand is right here, down near the ferrule. When I'm doing curlicues, I move it back to about the halfway mark up the brush. And that does make a big difference. It gives you a lot more control over the tip, and then you don't feel like you're drawing it, you're just letting the brush do the work. It does not have to follow my line drawing exactly. And I think that's part of it. Everyone always assumes that they have to do it exactly the way I did it. You don't. Just do a curlicue. It doesn't matter where it goes. Yep. And if you use the liner brush further back on the handle, hold it further back on the handle, you'll have better control. I know it doesn't seem like it, but you will. So I've got a coat of warm white on my Flutterby. And then we're going to dry this. And we're going to use a layering technique for this one too, because I want this color to glow a little bit, so it needs something that glows behind it. So I've got a little bit of warm white so that I'm not competing with that background for this. And we're going to put a base coat of tea berry. I know, seems like an odd choice, but it's going to be one coat of tea berry over top of that white. And because I used warm white, I'm only needing one coat. There we go. So that tea berry over top of that warm white. This is going to surprise you, the kind of glow we're going to get from this color. It's all about layers. More layers, more depth. And this tea berry is just such a pretty color. I love how this looks. It's such a great color. That little bit of warm white makes such a difference to how this color looks. So we've got tea berry. What?
The last puppy followed me.
A puppy?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a puppy. Okay.
My puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Still got a gold border to put on.
Oh, and we still have the butterfly to paint. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot in this one. So, our butterfly. Hi, Linda. So our butterfly's got one coat of tea berry on there. And now we're going to put one even coat of cherry merlot. Now the cherry is sort of a purplish tone, purplish red, almost a deep magenta. And watch what happens to this color when I put it over top of that tea berry. It glows. So we get this purpley tone, but it has a nice glow to it. So I like to base coat in the shape of the surface that I'm painting. So all of my strokes are coming back to the body of the butterfly. And I messed up that one. Messed up the first one. So I'm going to wet that. And I'm going to take that color off. Because I made a boo-boo. And I'm going to scrub. Okay. I messed up the base coat. There we go. There we go. That's much better. I messed it up the first time. I got too much color on there. There we go. It was very streaky and I wasn't happy with it. So we've got this nice glow. Thank you, Robin. Tell Tiny. I hope he's feeling better soon. We've all got our best wishes and prayers going out. So I'm going to dry this. I'm sorry. I'm still laughing at the girls here. They're crazy. So I've got, that's nice and dry. So I'm going to, remember the line drawing? Dun, da, da, da. I'm going to put that back over. And we're going to put a little bit of white graphite on there. Just make sure my butterfly is covered. And I'm going to trace in the details of the wings. So all of these little details, I don't worry too much about those black bits because we're going to paint those in anyway. But all of the details of the wing, I'm going to trace those back in. It's just easier. And having the line drawing set in the same position that I started out in just makes it a little easier still. So here we go. Just quickly draw those in. Now, this is not a realistic butterfly, but it's okay. It's close enough. We got a little bit of the detail in, which is what I really like. I like seeing some of the detail in these butterflies. We just double check. That looks good. Close enough. So I've got some of the detail in the wings of our butterfly. Now you can do this with a Sharpie if you want, or you can do it with paint. You can do it with, what do you call that thing? One of these, an Identa pen. Or you can do it with a Posca pen if you've got a nice fine one. I'm going to do it with paint. So we need a little bit of lamp black for this. We're going to do the details on the edges of the wings. But I want to show you a quick trick. I'm going to take a little bit of warm white. I love this part. And we're going to blend this out. Don't have full strength. And at the tip of each of those detailed areas, we're going to put a little float of warm white like that. It's just a little float inside those areas and towards the edge of the leaf. And it's just a little float like so. Nice float there. Float like that. It's going to look very messy for a little bit, but that's okay. Because we're going to make all of this look amazing in just a second. It looks very messy at this point. All along there. Just like that. Little float like that. I know, it looks very messy. Just like so. Looks terribly messy. Essentially, I've put a float at the outside edge of every single one of those little spots. There's Miss Sandy. So we're going to take that liner brush and we're going to thin out some lamp black. And we're going to paint the edge of our leaf, of our butterfly, like so. Now, I like to start at the outside edge and just make little strokes that come in so that you don't get what looks like a blob of paint. So it just looks a little more delicate. And it comes into the edge of the line. So outside edge, little line. So you've got a nice crisp edge at the outside, and then work in until it meets the edge of the colored portion of the wing. Like that. So you have an irregular edge that just slightly overlaps the colored portion. And then a line to separate those wings. And that's when you take your liner and you paint in all of those little details of the wings so that they all interconnect. Now, as I said, if you're more comfortable using, something like an Identa pen or a Sharpie or anything like that, then don't hesitate to use it. Whatever makes this a little simpler for you. I'm a firm believer there's no point in struggling with something that you're going to be unhappy with when you have the tools at your disposal to make it look the way you want to. So there we go. Look at that. So if you're not comfortable using the liner for all of these little details, by all means, go ahead and use the, look at that. And we have oodles of these surfaces in by the way. And we have the kit. And now you have the video. And you have my email address, so that if you have any questions, you know where to find me. There we go. Now the fun part about the butterfly is yet to come, because we're going to do a little bit of detailing on the wings yet, because I like me some detail. Look at this. Such a fun way to paint a butterfly. Easy peasy. So there we go. Almost done with this one. Well, the nice part is that if there's any areas that you're not happy with when you're doing this, there's some really easy ways to fix little wobbles and bobbles. And then we're going to paint the body of our butterfly with that same lamp black, like so. But the antenna, I like to paint with just a couple of thin strokes of warm white, like so. And I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to put on the edge of the wing. That's just a graphite line that you're seeing there. But I'm going to show you. We're going to highlight the edge of this wing. I'm going to take a little bit of that warm white, and we're going to highlight the edge of the wing with little tiny dip dots of white. I just like to scatter them along close to the edge. Woo. Here we go. I like little tiny dip dots all along the edge of the wing. Just like that. Oops. Went off the wing. So there we go. We've got a few little dip dots. Use that warm white to put a little highlight on the head and the body of the butterfly, like so. So we're going to dry this. I like that little spattering of white at the edge of the wings. I just think it was pretty. So I want to make sure this is really dry, because I'm going to separate that butterfly from our lettering a little bit. Just I made a little boo-boo here. So I need to cover a spot there. But I want to put a shadow underneath the letter. I'm going to use a little bit of soft black. I'm going to thin it out quite a bit. Just a little shadow there to separate the edge of the butterfly from the lettering. Just a little one. I love the pinkish purple tone that I get in this butterfly. Now, you can take a little bit of that. Remember what we did with this? We used a little of that neon on our grapes. You can do the same thing to your butterfly. Just a little in the highlighted areas of the wings. Just like that. Right over the color. It gives the butterfly a little more energy, and it pops right off that surface. So that little tiny bit, even though they're neon, they don't read as being neon, but they do elevate the highlights dramatically without looking like a glow-in-the-dark project. So I'm going to dry this really well, and then we're going to talk about that gold border. I'm going to be using a gold Posca pen, a gold metallic Posca pen for this. And then while I'm doing that, I'm pretty sure that Renee is going to be down here to load up that wheel. So this is a gold metallic Posca pen. I got a set of these from Amazon. This is the 0.25, so these ones have the finer point. They've got a nice fine point on them. So you can do thicker lines, you can do thinner lines, and it works very, very well. I love the metallic in this. This is a really nice metallic. And I do like my Posca pens. And most of these paint pens, gold metallic paint pens, don't have a very nice metallic, but these Posca pens do. So the word "the" that is on our piece is done with the gold Posca pen. I like these. They move very smoothly on a painted surface. And I love, look at how opaque that is for a metallic, and it's got nice sheen, nice shimmer, really a nice gold paint pen, and surprisingly not all that expensive. So I'm going to do my border the same way. And again, this is where that the cork back ruler comes into play. It lifts the ruler off the surface just a little. Notice the cork doesn't go right to the edge. So that when you're using any kind of metallic paint pen, having that elevation prevents the bleeding that you would get underneath anything like that. So you can use your gold paint pen to draw on your border. And I love, look how fine that is. And it's nice and reflective. The metallic is very nice in these pens. So I'm going to, again, I'm going to line it up like so. Great metallic border. I like the finer one. You could use a thicker one if you wanted to, but I'm rather like the finer gold. I think it suits this very nicely, and it has a more elegant finish. So here we go. Now, where I stop just short of the lettering, so that it goes in behind the lettering as opposed to over top of it. I don't really like going over it. And then we're going to talk about the finishing portion of this. So I've done all of the straight lines with that gold paint pen. Look at the shimmer. It pops off of there. This is such a nice shine. And then I just use the Posca pen to draw in those curved corners. They're a lot more forgiving than the straight lines. So you can freehand the curves. Et voila. Now, if you wanted to, you could spatter this. I was sort of ambivalent. I rather liked it without it. I think that this one has enough of the rustic going for it. I don't think that that spattering it would add anything to it, so I didn't. However, having said that, in hindsight, if I were going to spatter it, I would probably hit it with a little bit of gold, a little bit of thinned gold paint. So I'm going to dry this really well, and then we're going to clean up a few of the graphite lines in here. Because once they're cleaned up, everything looks more finished. I'm a firm believer that getting rid of those graphite lines actually cleans things up nicely and just gives you an overall look that this is finished as opposed to leaving it any other way. This is a Tombow black. I love these. I like black erasers for a variety of things. So this is where I clean up all of my graphite lines. I like to make sure they're all gone bye-bye. It just gives everything a clean, finished look. Like you haven't, forgotten to do something. It also makes everything look smoother, cleaner, more crisp. And so off they go. Get rid of the graphite. And I've got a fold here where the graphite paper had a fold in it. So when I do something like this, I usually take a few minutes to go back and have a look at it. There's always a few little spots that are just sort of not exactly the way you'd like them. And so I take that time, a little of that time, to clean up the graphite. And then if I need to go in and touch something up, that's when I take the time to do it. And I've got a spot here that's going to drive me bananas. It's right here, right in the curve here. There was a spot where the float went outside and onto the background. And so it left a foggy mark. So you can go back in with a little bit of soft black, because that's the color that we used for that background. Any little spots that are perhaps not as sharp as you would like them, you can take a liner and a little bit of soft black and you can clean them up. Because if you're anything like me, it would drive me bananas. I would see it from across the room and it would drive me nuts. So there we are. Et voila. So just little areas like that where perhaps the float, you get that little foggy mark at the edge of the lettering where the lettering is not quite as crisp as you would like. This is the perfect time to clean those up. And then when you're finished, you're good to go. So as you can see, fun project, really fun. It does look very light right here. You could add, if you wanted to, there's nothing to stop you from doing more. Just because it's not in the line drawing doesn't mean you can't put it there. I've been known to, add things as I go. I've been known to add things like after it's been signed and finished because I, wasn't particularly enthralled with how it looked. I was just looking here. This vein had a sort of a wobble in it and it kind of threw me off. So I'm going to put another one in. because I can. I'm the boss of me. I can do whatever I want. So you can play around with this. You can add vines wherever you want. Want to throw some in here and there, wherever. Don't be shy. You can put them wherever you want. I see another place I want one. Because I can. And nothing more. There we go. Look at that. Like I said, I can put vines wherever I want to. So to finish this, I would hit it with a couple of light coats of Decor matte spray. And once that's completely dry, I would use my favorite varnish. For me, I love the Ultra Matte or the Ultra Flat varnish, either one. I love how it looks. It's just very subtle and soft and creates a nice background. So this one is ready to pop into a frame or hang it up. It's not a difficult piece to paint. There's lots of fun little shortcuts in this one, especially using the stencil to create those grapes. So this is a fun one. Go ahead. Hit the bottom. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This one is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. So Renee is going to populate the wheel. And I'll reiterate, we have 3 really great gifts to give away today. It's my birthday, but you're getting presents. So you're going to, the 3 winners are going to receive a package with a really nice brush case full of Dynasty black gold brushes. There's a few little odds and sods in there from Renee and myself, plus there are some goodies from Tombow as well. So there is a nice little prize pack in there. It's worth somewhere around $75 to $100, which is a nice little giveaway. And we have 3 of them.
Robin Storm.
What did Robin Storm say? If you don't have Cherry Merlot. Hang on a sec. Mulberry or berry cobbler or poetic plum. You could use berry cobbler, magenta, or poetic plum. Any one of those will do. They're all in the same color family. I like this piece. I just think this is a fun one to do. See if what works. I can't see anything. Oh, there I am. Ann McIntyre says, make sure my name is on the wheel. Holy Moses.
You got a bit.
There's a few on there, I'd say. If you've been in the chat, your name is on the wheel. Because that's where he gets it. Deb Bloomfield, I want to win. There are a lot of names on that. How many names are on that wheel?
I think like 220.
Nice. Nice. Thank you very much.
Pick me. It's been a couple years.
Okay, Reynolds. Actually, Kay, I need your shipping information because we have a box here for you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Send her a message.
Send me a message with your shipping information. We have a box here for you.
From Miss Kay Reynolds.
Yeah. All right. I think we're ready to spin. Spin it.
I don't know what it's going to look like.
Oh, my stars. Judy Ann Hughes.
Yeah, grab this one.
And don't forget, make sure you send us your shipping information, because if we don't have a place to send it to, We wait for 2 weeks and then it goes back in the bin. We're going to need a bigger wheel. Oh, goodness. Awesome. And let's go again.
Maisie is getting antsy.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
And Cindy Roberts. Kathy Krasowski, I have never ever won.
Cindy Roberts.
Anastasia. Hello, Anastasia.
I'm not seeing any Facebook. Wait a second.
There was lots of Facebook on there a minute ago. There it is. Whoa. Good heavens. And the last one goes to
Yeah.
Margaret Davis.
Yay.
Awesome. So our winners today were Margaret Davis, Cindy, what was it? Roberts, and Judy Ann Hughes. Awesome. Congratulations to you guys. Don't forget, click on go over to my website at tracymoreau.net. Click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send us your shipping information. We hang on to the prizes for 2 weeks. If we don't have a shipping address, it'll go back in the bin. So, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you again for all of the great birthday wishes. I so appreciate them. You really made my day. And again, to my members, thank you so much for the flowers. You've no idea how much it meant to me to see those first thing this morning. So thank you very much. Love you guys, everybody. Mwah. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.
Pet your dog. I don't know if the mute button works anymore.
Who's Anastasia?